feel bad for The Division, I really do. This was a game that had a bunch of promise, a shitload of hype, pretty damn good idea, and then it turned into a bigger pile of shit than someone giving an elephant a laxative. You almost feel as bad for The Division, like someone getting fired and having to take a job as a YouTube vlogger and being told to go fuck themselves all the time, man. Now, let me just backtrack for a second. The game came out not too long after I sold my condo and I moved in with family in the meantime, so I haven't really done any videos on this motherfucker. You know, I posted up some footage of some of the crazier shit that happened in the game, but I never actually got to talk about the fucking thing. The game had plenty going for it. It had an ambitious concept, excellent details in New York City. I'll tell you right now, that shit was probably the most accurate shit I've seen in a game to this date. But anyway, also had a common narrative that seemed like something that came straight out of the movies or some shit. You know, a virus was released in New York City, lots of people are dying and shit. That sounds just like a fucking movie or a TV show, man. So it also got all this hype and attention. I mean, a shitload of hype. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. They ran a successful beta that gave people a taste of what the game could offer. But the most important thing that it had going for it was zero competition. There was absolutely nothing on the market at the time to compete with this motherfucker. And this is something I have been saying for years now. Most big games like to release right before the holidays to take advantage of sales. Just look at the list of titles that released last year. Destiny, The Taken King, Crap Ops 3, Halo 5, Forza, although that's turned into like an annual fucking release and shit like that. Fallout 4, Star Wars Battlefront, Need for Speed, Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. While not all of these games are successful or were done correctly and turned into shit games, that's quite a number of established franchises. Obviously, not every one of those games would appeal to someone who plays The Division, but you see the competition you're fighting with for an audience. In particular, a brand new game. It was a very crowded market. On the flip side, look at what The Division did. It released in early March, a time when gaming is incredibly slow. Aside from DLC from the 2015 release games, there was really no competition to fight with for attention. There was no game on the market that could appeal to the same crowd that would probably like The Division. They had a successful beta, they had years of marketing in their favor, and nothing on the horizon for a gamer to say, you know what, I'd rather save my money and play that game. I mean, unless you want to count Oculus Rift or whatever the fuck that shit is. Oh god, fucking virtual reality on a goddamn computer that's basically used for porn now. Essentially, the landscape was perfect for The Division. Personally, I was always skeptical about this game. Anyone that's been playing Ubisoft games has seen their marketing, you know why. They create amazing trailers, they do these scripted scenes at major events like E3 or whatnot, but when it comes to the actual game, none of that shit in the trailer makes it to the final fucking product. Watch Dogs and The Crew are perfect examples of that shit. Assassin's Creed is a perfect example of when you overexploit an idea and churn that shit out for money like a pimp sending a drugged out hooker on the street corners every night. You saw signs of that with The Division from the very first trailer that they revealed, only to see downgraded graphics down the road once the game was actually released. Much like Destiny and No Man's Lie. Oh man, what a fucking scam of a game that shit turned out to be. Spoiler alert, the end of the game is finding the center of the fucking universe doesn't do shit. But, much like extremely hyped up games, the media knows how to capitalize on fan excitement. Websites and YouTube channels and bloggers, they make all their money themselves off your excitement. Because after all, if some asshole gets 100 views showing Call of Duty content, but he gets 500 views showing previews of The Division content, that asshole knows people are excited about The Division, and he's going to make more videos that people are going to get excited about because in return, money. He makes more money. So the hype generated for this game by media outlets is always self-serving. If IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, Game Informer can get people to visit their sites, showing off the newest Division content, trailers and info and all that other shit, they know they could ride the money train for as long as possible, and that's exactly what happened. Ubisoft benefited from the hype, media benefited from the hype, gamers see something that is popular and they gravitate towards it like a mosquito to a fat kid who just ate chocolate cake. That's my sweet motherfucker, man. Thus, a game becomes overexposed to the point that it needs to live up to those expectations. Now, to be fair, although Ubisoft certainly markets that excitement to sell their game, they're not entirely at fault for that. I'm going to say they're about 90% at fault for that shit. But gamers are responsible for the other 10% for convincing themselves that a game is going to be more than it turns out to be. Destiny was always a perfect example of that. I'm fucking guilty of that shit. I'll raise my hand proudly and say I bought into the hype and that shit was fucking horrible when it first released. It's gotten a whole lot better, but this is not a Destiny video on this motherfucker. But anyway, when the game was released, I bought it because friends were getting it, and the reality was I had nothing else to play. So The Division looked like a pretty appealing game to play. I even wrote on Prestige Gamers in a thread about The Division that the game's gonna hold me over for about a month or so until Uncharted comes along. So I played it, and to be very honest, I enjoyed The Division. The campaign and the structure remind you a lot of Assassin's Creed, where you need to unlock neighborhoods and shit like that in New York City to gain access to the missions. You complete missions that give you points towards the 3 skills that are offered in the game, you know, offense, defense, and health. Basically, I'm just going to minimize the explanations of that shit. It takes its roots from classic RPG games with tanks, healers, and damage dealers. So they have offense, defense, and health. We'll simplify that shit that way. Each story mission offers you more points towards one of those skills. Each side mission offers you more points towards the skills. Each mission offers you a chance to rank up to get better gear, unlock better skills. So overall, the concept is familiar, but it was done effectively in the campaign. Throw in one of the best renditions of New York City I've ever seen. I mean, really, I'll say this plenty of times over. That is one of the best representations of New York City I've ever seen. So I give them a shitload of credit for trying to pull that map off that they actually created. But the best part of this is you can do all of this shit with friends or matchmaking with random. So it was certainly a co-op friendly game. By the end of the campaign, you hit the maximum level, you beat the game, and then it falls apart. This is the biggest issue The Division had, and it still has to this day. After you beat the campaign, what the flying fuck are you gonna do now? Essentially, at this point, the game turns into a loot shooter. All you're doing is collecting shit. Get a better gun, get better armor, get better gear, whatever the fuck it is. You have a few options. You can head into the Dark Zone, which is a player versus AI environment, or start another character and do the whole fucking story all over again. The Dark Zone was supposed to be this place where you get better equipment, you had to watch your back from other players jacking your shit and whatnot, and the enemies are basically there as the biggest bullet sponges you will ever see in a fucking video game. And if you didn't like doing that, then you could try the daily missions or daily events and challenge modes, whatever the fuck it is. Basically, it was doing one of the 15 story missions all over again, a harder difficulty for chance of better gear. And finally, the last option that you had was to run around the campaign area looking for these named bosses that roam the world and shit like that. And every now and then you kill them, they would respawn, potentially drop better shit, exploit the shit out of that. Does any of this sound like fucking fun? Well, to many players, it wasn't. So what did people do? They exploited the game. They cheated the system. They found every loophole and bug in the fucking game to advance their character because there was nothing else to fucking do. People exploited the shit out of bosses for drops because there was no better way of getting drops. People exploited gun mechanics to kill people in the Dark Zone because the rest of that shit was all fucked up. The Dark Zone has been revamped a number of times because there was virtually no point in killing other players when the game launched. The drops in the Dark Zone were terrible, and then on top of that, some of the most valuable things that came out of the Dark Zone came from loot boxes. Shit, we spent hours running around avoiding enemies, avoiding other players, just because we wanted to open fucking boxes, man. Because the loot in the boxes had better shit than if you actually killed the motherfucker. Doesn't that shit make sense? No, of course not. You know, the story missions were boring as shit after the 100th time you beat them. So what did people do? They figured out how to exploit them. I posted a video of one of the exploits that I got into where someone figured out how to get like unlimited people in a 4-man event. Oh, that shit was hilarious and fun at the same time. 30 people ran through a mission in like 8 minutes. But usually, when you have 4 people, it took you like 30 to 45 minutes to beat that motherfucker. And why did people do this? Because it was an easier way to get loot. The beautiful campaign world that The Division had was fucking useless after you beat the campaign. Really, there was no reason to wander around the map that encompassed 80% of the world. Really? 80% of the world you created, 80% of the map you have is fucking useless? But ultimately, what really made this game boring was the enemies and the AI, like I've been saying, man. Sure, there was a variety. There was a flamethrower. There was a guy with a shield, a guy with an axe, snipers, shotgunners who could hit you from fucking New Jersey with the distance they gave those shits. I swear to God, man, some of those fucking enemies, they could be sitting in fucking Queens and they'll hit you in Manhattan with those goddamn shotguns, man. Those fucking bullshit. But listen, every enemy was basically a meat sponge. Endless amounts of bullets pumped into their face. We're talking 20 to 30 sniper shots, 200 LMG bullets, 300 SMG shots just for a basic fucking enemy. It was absurd, man. There was no difficulty level in this game. There was no challenge. There was no puzzles. It was just how much ammo do you have going into this mission, and that's going to determine how many bullets you need to kill a motherfucker. It was really embarrassing, man. The studio that made this game, massive, has attempted to patch all the bugs. They've attempted to patch all the exploits. They made efforts to improve the Dark Zone, the Light Zone, you know, where the 80% of the map is. They tried to improve the loot. They tried to offer up reasons to keep playing this motherfucker. The main thing was the first 2 free DLCs. The first DLC that they released, their highest level PvE content, was called Excursion. It's supposed to be like, you know, a miniature version of a raid from Destiny and whatnot. This was supposed to be the pinnacle events in the game. This was their answer to raiding and MMOs, only to have it scaled down to like a 4-person shooter and shit like that. What did this Incursion end up being? Another fucking boring shit bullet sponge fest where all you needed to do was kill a tank with bombs, and best of all, no checkpoints. Fuck up on the final wave and it was game over from you. Start all the way from the fucking beginning. Go back to start, don't collect $200, don't pass go. You had to do that whole shit-filled experience all over again. And since it sucked, people found a way of exploiting it. Of course the community would, because the shit sucked. People got out of the map, they killed the tank by firing endless noob tubes at the motherfucker for like an hour instead of beating the thing in 30 minutes. Because after all, what would you rather do? An easy way for an hour, or do something for 30 minutes with the potential of fucking up and having to start over and do that shit all over again? Players found the easiest way to glitch and they exploited that shit. I did it, I'm not gonna lie. Because by that point, the game was already losing me as a player. On top of the boring shit they rolled out, they also changed the entire power structure of the game. Before the free DLC, rank ups were easy to understand. If you were rank 30, you knew what a rank 30 enemy would be like, or a rank 32 enemy would be like. It would be a little tougher. But after the DLC, they rolled out all this stupid shit called gear scores. How strong your gear is determines how powerful you could be. Basically what Destiny did in year 1 and then turned around and said, this is fucking stupid. So hey, let's take the idea that Destiny rolled out and thought was stupid, and let's put that in our game and see how fucking good it is. They also then rolled out a whole new set of gear, which was supposed to be better than what you fucking had. Wait a second. You mean all the shit that people just grinded for in the prior month of the game, the shit that we either slowly exploited, slowly bought, or painstakingly tried to find to improve our character is now useless? And I need to go out and get better gear than that shit? Oh, it gets even better than this. Hold the fuck on. Those familiar with loot shooters know the color system. White is your basic gear, green is a step up, followed by blue, purple, and gold. Gold is the gear you want to get. Gold is your main objective because that's always going to be the best gear. But now, they're rolling out this dark green gear, and this dark green gear is better than your gold gear that you just ranked the fuck up for. And the gold gear that you have now comes in 4 different levels. So now you have a low level gold gear, you have a medium level gold gear, high level, and the super duper extra motherfucker strength gear. But that super duper extra motherfucker deluxe gold gear with spinning rims and grills and shit like that still isn't stronger than the dark new green gear that you need to get for playing all that boring shit. At that point, the game lost me as a customer. What started out as a fun experience, you know, ranking up, playing the campaign, playing with friends and shit like that, doing all those missions, turned into a fucking loot nightmare where you were basically trying to figure out what the best shit in the game was. Each gear had ratings on them. They had statistics attached to them. They had fucking incomputable stats, like 150,000 DPS, but you need to have gear that unlocks this certain perk. And if you have 150,000 DPS, you're only going to have 20,000 health. I was like, oh, get the fuck out of here with all that shit, man. All I know is, I wanted to go into the dark zone. There are players in there that I know would stomp the shit out of me in a matter of seconds, and I don't know if they can stomp the shit out of me in a matter of seconds. So what do? I gotta avoid the motherfuckers the whole goddamn time. They had superior gear, because basically they fucking either exploited that shit or played hours on end that I didn't fucking have. And since I have no idea who I'm fucking fighting, I'm not gonna go up against them. I'm just gonna keep running the fuck away. If there were 4 players in the dark zone that were in a party and you were 1, you knew you didn't stand a chance. You ran the fuck away. And by adding that dark green gear, by adding 4 fucking levels to your gold gear, you basically created this ridiculous power pyramid system that nobody could achieve other than the top 1% of players that had the most absolute time to play during a fucking week. It was absurd. Now after that, the game launched one more free DLC after that, along with some other improvements that weren't really improvements. Then the paid DLC started, where they started adding a whole different section to the game, Underground, where now you had to rank up the fucking Underground. So you already had to rank up the campaign, you had to rank up the Dark Zone, and now you got the fucking Underground. They changed some of the weapons, they nerfed some, they buffed some, they tried improving the Dark Zone, tried improving that 80% campaign map, which was fucking empty for months. Basically, massive tried. They really did. They've been trying. But here's the problem. And they finally just fucking realized this. The core of their game is fundamentally flawed. And flawed is a nice word. Realistically, it's fucked. Flawed is me being generous, because I sort of like the game. But ultimately, this game is really fucked. The fixes required to make this game better require a complete overhaul of what they rolled out initially. And now that they realize this shit, they're delaying the next DLC paid pack in order to fix this fucking game. So at least they finally came to their sense, but here's the shitty part. Nobody, other than the dedicated players, are going to really give a fuck. That's the unfortunate reality that the Division faced. Let's just say, for fuck's sake, they fixed this game. Let's just say, they managed to update every fucking thing in the game and improve the experience that you have. Now, you have to compete with a new Call of Duty game. Well, actually, you're going to be competing against Call of Duty 4 because nobody wants to play the space fucking warfare bullshit. You're going to have Battlefield 1. You're going to have Titanfall 2. You're going to have Final Fantasy, Watch Dogs 2, Dishonored 2, Dead Rising 4, South Park, Destiny's Rise of Iron to be out for a couple months. That window of opportunity that you had to create a fantastic game and roll out complimentary DLC to fans that aren't playing anything at the point is gone. You're fixing a 6-month-old game against competition of brand new games, and then you're gonna have to ask people to pay for the DLC, aside from the seasoned subscribers who bought that shit ahead of time, not realizing the stupid fucking issue they got into now. But you're gonna ask them to play a game that is nothing but a confusing fucking problem since the launch of the game, asking them, trust us again, because every fix we've had up to this point still hasn't worked, and you're gonna have to pay for that shit in the future after all the free DLCs that you rolled out and weren't up to par. This is the challenge Mass is up against. This is the challenge Ubisoft is gonna have trying to get players to come back to this fucking game. Ranking up during the campaign was the best part of the game. That shit was entertaining. It was tedious, but it was entertaining. Now, the game is stuck in limbo. It had nothing but horrible press after every release of the DLC with all the bugs, all the exploits, and the shitty improvements, and we're 6 months later, and this game still doesn't know what it wants to be. You know, unlike Destiny, which, by the way, also suffers some of these very similar issues that The Division is going through, The Division backed itself into a corner with the world they created. You see, with Destiny, you got space magic. You can do pretty much anything you want to improve a sci-fi game. Your imagination is the limit. Do you want to create double jumps, triple jumps? You can make a laser beam. You can make fucking alien space spiders. You can improve the drop rates in the Crucible, fine tweak the guns. You can make your character stronger. You can make them weaker. You can make a new alien, a weaker alien, a stronger alien, a big fucking alien on a goddamn spaceship like Oryx in this motherfucker. You can unlock all those bullshit areas that you close off in this fucking thing. But The Division can't really do that. They pin themselves in with the Dark Zone. They're not going to expand that exponentially, if at all. You can't add alien abilities. I mean, you could probably add some new enemies, but they're not going to get any kind of alien abilities. What can you do that's realistic? You already have a machine gun. You already have a flamethrower. You're going to have, like, axe throwers or some shit? I don't know. How are you going to add a new enemy group to this game? What weapons are they going to use? What's going to make them different from the other set of enemies that are already in this game? You can explain why the city fell into chaos and how many fucking criminals there are in the world, but other than that, little can be done other than gun balance, maybe eliminating some of the countless tiers of gear and gear score bullshit and all that, cutting down on the bullet sponges, maybe improving the loadouts or whatever it is, and definitely improving the statistical numbers. I mean, there's fucking DPS and health and oh, get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. I mean, if anything really drove people away, it's because they didn't understand the fucking stats of the goddamn game. You have these channels on YouTube dedicated to fucking making videos, helping people understand the stats of the fucking game. Some people get like 100,000 views because nobody understands what the fuck the goddamn setup is of the game. So you have these nerds that sit there for hours counting that shit. Oh, get the fuck out of here, I need to get started on that shit, man. But essentially, Massive created this giant fuckhole of a mess. Ubisoft allowed them to walk right into this hole by marketing this game off of excitement and hype. And they're neck deep in a pile of shit that they're trying to escape from right now. They did this to themselves. They're responsible for it all. But you can't help but feel bad for a game that had this much promise because they didn't know what the fuck to do with itself, man. They had a chance to do something great. They had a chance to really market a good product, but they really didn't know what they wanted to do with it. They said, let's just put this shit out there, see what happens, and then we can fix it after the fact. No, you can't do that in today's market. You can't sit back and say, I think we have an idea. Let's roll it out to the players and let them tell us what to do afterwards. But we're going to have this whole system of DLC after it, and we're going to offer it free and shit like that. They basically fucked themselves in the ass over this game. They pinned themselves in the corner with the concept that they wanted to create, and now they don't know what to do. Personally, at this point, it might just be smarter to do some minor adjustments to the game and then focus on the sequel. Considering Ubisoft's success with Assassin's Creed years ago, where Part 1 sucked, but Part 2 was the pinnacle of the series, this might be a good example for Massive to follow. Learn from your mistakes. Improve on the product afterwards. Don't worry too much about The Division 1. Maybe focus your content on The Division 2. Make all your improvements so that when you come back with your sequel, you've learned from all of your mistakes. But I mean, no matter what they do at this point, I'm not going back to this game full time. You know, if they make improvements in a sequel, they figure out how to make endgame content or whatever the hell, that might be appealing. But otherwise, this was just another game with tons of potential that really fell short of the ridiculous expectations people had for this motherfucker. And it's sad, because anyone that remembers that reveal trailer years ago, remember, this could be an exciting game. It's just that all that content that they had, the trailers that Ubisoft knows how to make, never translates to the final game. This really could have been something amazing, but for whatever reason, it fell flat on its fucking face. Now, of course, as you guys know, after every video that lately I've been posting in this motherfucker, I do have another housing update. If you guys remember, the last pictures that I posted up a few weeks ago, the last time I did a video, I'm going to show you some of them right now. All that shit is finally starting to come together. Right now, the biggest thing that is in, cabinets. There you go, motherfucker. That's what my kitchen is actually going to look like. You can see I had to go with the fucking white cabinets of this motherfucker. I don't like white cabinets. I don't know about you guys. I like the wood color cabinets, the dark color cabinets. But here's the thing. I'm going to have dark hardwood floors throughout the house. And you even see a picture right here of the, that's the stain that's going to be on the floors. The floors that you see in there right now, they're unstained. Those are just basic oak wood floors and shit like that. But the actual stain is going to be a really dark stain. If you have a dark stain, you have to go with a light cabinet. Because if you have dark and dark, your house is going to look like a fucking cave. So I don't want that shit. So essentially, what you gotta have is you gotta have white cabinets up in this motherfucker. You can see I have like a little wine rack in this bitch. I'm gonna have an 11-foot island in this motherfucker. Oh yeah, I'm hooking this shit up. My kitchen is gonna be awesome. I love to cook. I think I've said this in plenty of videos in my question and answer session, but I'm a cook. I love to cook. I love to eat. I love to make foods. I'm always watching fucking Food Networks. I'm always looking for different recipes. I don't want to eat the same shit every night. So my kitchen is coming along, and it's going to look badass when this motherfucker's complete. I'm actually going to have another on-site visit 2 weeks from now. So who knows? Maybe I'll probably have another video, another update in this motherfucker. You guys will be able to see what the shit's starting to look like. My next on-site visit is going to be right before Destiny rolls out their next DLC, which is most likely what I'm going to be playing because I really don't see any shit other than fucking Call of Duty 4. I tried the Titanfall beta. It was alright. It was fun, but there's nothing really that's going to make me want to play this motherfucker. But anyway, there you guys see all the damn cabinets and shit like that. The rest of the house looks the same. You know, I have some improvements to the master bathroom, the master bedroom and shit like that, but nothing that's really going to make it be like, oh wow, he actually has shit in. No, the main difference was the kitchen. But when I go back in 2 weeks, oh yeah, that's just going to be pretty much almost complete up in this motherfucker. So just a little bit more time, probably 60 more days. By October, I should be living in the motherfucker, and then eventually I'm going to be coming back and doing my videos full time. I know it's been a long wait, but trust me, I will be coming back eventually, and when I do, I'm going to be coming back with all kinds of good shit. So I hope you guys stick with me, and as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all the good shit. And I'll probably see you in a video in about 2 weeks or so with another update on the motherfucker.